Here's the top things I would have done differently if I could start my comic all over again. I started making a comic in 2020, in December, at the end of 2020. So technically the beginning of 2021 if we want to be generous. I've been working on it for a while now, and here's everything I would have done differently. And all of this applies not to your illustration skill level, if that makes sense. So if you feel like you're not a good enough illustrator to be making a comic, that's not really, it's not an excuse. Because comic's about storytelling, and as you work on it, you'll find yourself just naturally getting better at drawing. So there you go. First and foremost, I use Procreate, and I didn't know when I first started using Procreate that there was actually an option to add text, because there is an option to add text. When I finally found out that there was a way to use text, that was after I had already gotten started and gotten a pretty good momentum going with my comic, I just decided not to even use it because, well, for a couple reasons. First off, I felt like, well, I already got started. What's the point in redoing it all now? So I'll just keep writing out each individual word, which was such a pain. Also, I figured, oh, it adds a cute little quirk to my comic because I'm writing it all out. Now it's like kind of personal because everyone who reads it knows my writing style and knows, like, can recognize how I write and stuff. But even then, I tried to look up how to make my own font by writing out each letter, and that didn't work at all. So then I figured I would just keep writing it over and over. And it came to a point where I was like, this is just ridiculous. Not only does it waste so much time, there's so many people out there who can't even read what I write, unfortunately. Not because it's necessarily illegible, but it's a safer route to use text instead of writing it out, because you have no idea. I mean, I'm even dyslexic, and it frustrates me so much when I see other people's work where they write out words and I can't read it. So I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. But anyway, because I did that, because I was so stubborn and chose to continue to write out every word, I have had to go back from the very beginning and edit all my comic panels that I've worked on so far to add text. So of course now moving forward it's going to be easier because I just make the comic and then I add the text and it's done. But I spent quite a bit of time having to go back and add text to every panel. So just do it. Just bite the bullet and do it. I don't know why I was so stubborn. It's so silly. And your program most likely, whatever program you use, most likely has an option to add text. And if it doesn't, it will be a little harder, but all you have to do is just draw in the speech bubble and then take your finished panel or page into another program where you can add text. Like if you have Adobe, then obviously that would be the best option. Just throw it in Illustrator, and then also you have a lot more fonts to choose from. But anyway, do that. Do it. Okay, so number 2 now, format. It's really important to establish your format right away. So when I first started, what was really motivating for me to be making art was Instagram. All of my panels were squares. Not cool. And then if I made panels more like interesting, then I would like take a square and I'd cut it in half, so it's 2 panels, or I'd cut it a certain way to have multiple panels. But either way, I always worked with squares. It is stupid. Now I actually work with just a paper size. 8.5 by 11 is what I work with now. And then I have a specific format that I've worked out, so then I cut the pages into the panels that I want, or whatever. I figure that part out in the thumbnail. Figure out your format beforehand and definitely stick to it. The most important thing when picking out your format is figuring out where your comic's gonna be. If you figure the most important thing to you is to print it out, then use a format that would work best when printing it out. Or if you are going to focus on, it's like a webcomic and you're going to focus on posting it on Webtoon, then you should be working with a really long format, or you should be working with like a format that you can work into a longer format. Does that make sense? Like if you don't want to work on all this, then work out a way so that you're just working on this, but that it flows easily on top of each other. When it comes to making comics, a really important part of the storytelling is the flow. So really effective comic books, like physical copies, will use a page turn to its advantage. Like the creator will build suspense through a page turn, or they'll carry the story through a page turn. Like that's going to be a really powerful part of the storytelling process. And it's the same way if you want to just work on a webcomic format. So when you scroll, that's what you want to focus on, is how are you building tension through the story, or how are you telling the story through scrolling. So anyway, my formats changed throughout time, and I'm figured like, whatever, it's not a big deal. Part 1 and part 2 of my comic have different formats, but they're still readable, even though for part 2 I use a page. I work with like a page size. You can still take a page and stack them on top of each other. It's just not as effective in comparison to artists who like solely focus on a webcomic, because then they know what they're doing with a webcomic. But it's still doable to be able to just take a page and stack them on top of each other so that you can scroll through and read them. But yeah, you should just figure that out so it stays consistent, and then you know what to focus on. So now, online posting, obviously, whether or not you want it to be printed, you need to have some way to be posting what you make online so that you can build that following. When you have that following, you have the support to be able to work on bigger projects. You know what I mean? If you plan on posting your comic all online instead of just posting like tidbits and whatever and then providing an option to read it elsewhere, but if you plan on posting the whole thing online, like if you were to go and use Webtoon, then you need to be consistent. This is something I have never done. I've never gotten top of, but genuinely when you are consistent, you see the best results. And I mean, that comes with just posting anything online. If you're posting fan art or if you're posting any sort of art, consistency really is key. It's so important. Here's the thing, and this is gonna hurt for you to hear maybe, because it hurts for me to hear. If you want to post your entire comic online, you should probably either have a really good chunk done so that you can post it either every week, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever it is, but that you can post it consistently. And then your workflow needs to be able to catch up so that when you post one part, you're getting another part finished. You post another part, you're getting another part finished. Or you just have to finish the whole thing and then post it daily, weekly, whatever you want to do. But either way, that consistency is key, because if you kind of like fall off and you don't stay consistent, then people aren't really going to care the next time that you post, because they've already lost interest. It's been too much time. There are exceptions when your comic is popular enough, or when you are popular enough and people are going to be invested no matter what. But either way, it's just considerate. Don't you think? It's just considerate to have a consistent posting schedule for everyone who's really invested and who's interested in what you're making. Anyway, if I could do anything differently, I would definitely have finished everything first and then probably set out a consistent posting schedule, because my comic isn't necessarily that long. It's kind of long. And in the times in the past where I've had a consistent posting schedule, that's when I've seen the most amount of interactions. So there you go. Now, another thing is I wish I would have read more comics. I've read a lot of manga, but my comic style isn't totally based off manga. Like, I'm not really trying to make manga, so that's not super helpful. It is helpful, but not super helpful. Reading comics makes such a big difference because it's a guide for you to follow. Like, especially when you want to be able to draw like onomatopoeias, you want to be able to properly visualize what's happening in your comic, because that's really hard. It's hard to do that with still images. It's hard to create movement with still images. It's hard to create progression with still images. Definitely reading comics helps you. It's a guide for you. And there's not a problem with just copying what other people have done, especially when it comes to onomatopoeias. Because that's something I have a hard time with, is creating that. And when I say onomatopoeias, I mean like bang or pow or punch or whatever that has the pretty outline around a word. Like, that's a huge part of comics. And now that I've been reading more comics and I've been more invested in learning like a general format, general outline of making comics, I feel like I've gotten better at it, but definitely in the beginning that was something that was hard for me. And yeah, it's just important to read especially like the classics. Read what has made it really far, what is the most popular. Read what is your favorite, what you want to be copying. Probably my biggest inspiration from a young age was Bone. I really liked that, and that's a graphic novel, right? Not a comic. But anyway, I wanted to make stuff that was like that. Just consume the content that you want to create. You are what you eat. You know what I mean? My final piece of advice, something I definitely would have done differently that drives me nuts, is your first comic should be easy. And how do I put this right? You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, which that might be like, well, duh, but it really is easier said than done, which I can personally attest to. So I always tell people that you should just start. Like, if you want to do something, just start. Just do it. Stop sitting around waiting for the stars to align so that you can get something done. You should just do it. But with that being said, it is really important to pick and choose what you can do versus what you should do later down the line. So if you have this really extravagant story in mind, then you probably don't want to get started on that right away, because later down the line you would have the capabilities to honor it the way I'm sure you'd want to honor it. Like, that's just how I feel. I have stories and characters that I have yet to flesh out. Well, I of course draw the character designs and I write scripts and whatnot, but I'm not going to actually get started until I feel like I can do good by those ideas, or I can give them what they deserve. Anyway, it's easy for me because I feel like I have a lot of ideas, a lot of stories and stuff, so I can just pick and choose, like, okay, well, this is like one I might feel like, oh, well, this is one that's at my level. This is one I can work on right now. So my comic that I've been working on, Steve's Tale, it felt like that. It felt from the outside very easy, like I would be able to just get it done. And now that I'm really in it, that has not been the case. And even still, taking a step back and looking at it, it feels smaller than it actually is. But just juggling school and work and general life duties, it has turned out to be a much bigger project than I thought it would be. So if I could do things differently, I either would have, one, made the story more simple, two, tried to come up with a shorter story, or three, what I feel like is probably the best idea is to do short, one-off, like slice of life type bits, because then you don't have to really be too invested in what you're doing, and you can just be ready to pick up another project whenever you want. Where I feel like I've been stuck in a Steve's Tale, so I've picked up another project where I am doing like 4-panel slice of life comics so that it can break up the monotony of working on the same thing over and over for so long. It's just your first comic, your first project, your first endeavor really should be small and easy. And another reason why I feel like that one-off is great is because you can drop it off and pick it up whenever you want, and you don't have to be committed to the same idea. I mean, like, you would want to use, of course, the same characters, probably the same setting, but the story doesn't really have to be that consistent. You don't have to be that invested in like this fantastic story that you're working out for a long time. So yeah. Anyway, that's what I would have done differently. Well, there's a couple more things that I would have done differently. That's what I feel like is the most important things. After watching this, you have no excuse not to start. Yeah, so first off, use text, don't write stuff out, that's ridiculous. Work out your format in the beginning, figure out how you want to post, what you want to post, that'll make things easier, and stay consistent to said format. And then online posting, be consistent, give your followers what they deserve, and read more comics, of course. Gather inspiration from where you want to gather inspiration. If you want to be making manga, read more manga. If you want to be making that classic Marvel style of superhero comics, then read more of those. And then, of course, your first comic should be easy. Should be something that you don't have to invest too much time in, because when you're ready to pick up another project, you should be able to just pick it up instead of feeling like you're chained to this project that you started when you were like, I don't know, 14 years old, and the pandemic was going on, and you were trapped in your room, and all your friends were like, oh yeah, you should start your first comic now. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, I totally should, because I'm so invested in comics, and I love comics, so I might as well just get going. But now it's turned into this whole thing where I don't even know when I'm going to be done. I might just drop it off. No, I don't want to drop it off. I need to finish it. I need to see it through the end. So, thank you for watching, and happy creating. And I know it's been a while since I've made a video, so I really do appreciate you watching this one. My hair's purple again. That's pretty cool. By the way, just to whoever cares, since I talked about doing like my reading vlogs, and I have been doing the reading vlogs, I still read a lot, I swear. I just have been reading more like Christian how to live your life books, which is why I haven't been making videos about it, because I'm like, I don't really see the point. You know what, if you're interested, I really recommend Brent Hansen. I've read 2 of his books now. He's really good, and I'm going to be reading some C.S. Lewis as well. So that's what I've been reading, but I need to get back on my reading vlogs, so we'll see if I do that. Wow, I'm not giving my followers what they deserve. Okay, well, thank you for watching.